I'd like to also thank our collaborators here, Siddharth and the entire GIIC team, and of course all our panelists who you will hear today, as well as subsequently at the Stuttgart event. We really look forward to hearing your thoughts, and we really look forward to how India and Germany can continue to collaborate. But the immediate collaboration is between Jörg and me. I'll thank all the other speakers to kindly take their seats. Thank you so much. And this is the News9 Global Summit that we will be live with on News9. Thank you so much, everybody. And what we like to do, a little bit of branding. All right, back to the GIIC Innovation Summit, and let's actually set the ball rolling on this spotlight. I think yesterday, if I remember what Jan was telling us in the briefing at dinner, was that there's got to be a wow moment that we want to derive from these conversations. Now, I think the wow moment definitely comes by the sheer number of vehicles that are sold, cars that are sold in India. Last count, 2024, I think India recorded 4.2 million cars that were sold on Indian roads. Now, anybody who doubts the India growth story, who has questions on the fact that India is now the 4th largest economy, I think just the sheer volume of the number of cars that are sold in India tells us that the economic health of the country is great and only getting better. I think things were very different, Jörg, when you were in India and when you were heading Volkswagen more than 10, 12 years ago. I think that story, the automobile story, the aspirational India story has really gotten into overdrive, hasn't it?
It has. At the time when we started, this was really quite different. And we had big expectations at that time, and how the market will be grow and so on, and how the success of our cars will come. What was not in that range we have expected, but it went very well on. So at that time, it was a good start.
Right. And, you know, it's also another wow moment for India also comes from the fact that a big chunk of the cars which are sold in India right now are not, with due respect to the speaker from Maruti Suzuki who was here just a short while back, are actually not the Maruti 800s or the Altos. They are not the smaller cars, but rather Indians are now fancying the SUVs a lot more than perhaps in your time in India.
Yes, at that time it was a sedan, what was mainly the car, and a little hatchback. And now it changed, as you rightly said. Nowadays, if you see the figures, you have the SUVs far in front, then the hatchbacks and sedan just a little. So this really changed quite a lot.
Right. So I think to really be relevant to the German audience also now, you know, I thought let's structure this spotlight dialogue into 3 or 4 very critical buckets. And some of these buckets, I believe, begin, of course, we are doing the Innovation Summit here. So one cannot not talk about innovation. Innovation in technology becomes the first pillar that I'd like to discuss and get Jörg's views on. But I think beyond innovation and beyond technology, sustainability is a large theme which is driving the global agenda when it comes to automobility. Donald Trump notwithstanding, drill baby drill notwithstanding. And I think the last point also happens to be around culture, around what is the message and what are the values that must be drilled down to the last factory worker in the large ecosystem of auto manufacturing in India. So let's take them one by one with Jörg. Jörg, to begin with, innovation, collaboration in innovation, technology transfer, and this whole challenge which I think it's not just the auto sector, it's industries across the world that try to balance out quality and affordability. How does technology, innovation bridge the gap where great technology could also be greatly affordable?
I would take a look into the different markets. Let's take the Indian market, as we talk about India, it is very important to understand what customers want to have, what their needs are. And based on this, on concrete problems, I call it problems or needs or expectations, you need to work on innovation, yeah? Because if you think, let's say in Europe, somewhere in the development center, you have good ideas how a car look like, this does not work. Yeah, maybe this was the approach 20 years ago or so, but not nowadays. Now you have to sit together with your customers or with your teams, with your diverse teams, sitting together and solving concrete problems together in a safety space also, what is also important, because
Right.
my topic is people, yeah, how to bring people to innovation. You need to create also a safety space where people can work together, collaborate in an open way, also being allowed maybe to make some mistakes or so. This also has to be possible, because these are also results. And then if you bring all these things together, I think then you are on the way to create innovation.
All right. I cannot not think about China as an example. Are there lessons from China for Germany as well as from India? For India, the fact that innovation at scale, brilliant product launches, and affordability all come together in pretty much the entire electric mobility market, which China has been able to sort of, create wonders in. I'm talking BYD, I'm also talking Xiaomi. You've seen diversification, you've seen traditional electronics companies now really come out with battery technology and with innovation in the automobile sector, where affordability as well as quality come together. Are there lessons in perhaps technology, innovation, diversification? What can India or Germany learn from the China example when it comes to at least electric mobility and the innovation for new age mobility?
I mean, if we take a look into China, then we see that the Chinese automobilists have learned how to produce cars. They have learned it, no?
At scale,
At scale, yes.
cheap cars,
Yeah, cheap
and
cars.
arguably good quality?
Yeah, cheap cars. Let's take a look into the results of the companies. Yeah, maybe we can have a different interpretation then. Yeah, but in general, they learned how to build cars. So, and what we can learn from them now is the speed. Our release cycles are far too long from my point of view. This is one learning point what we can take from Chinese automobilists, for example. Yeah? And maybe in India, it's more or less the same. Yeah? This is something Germany is very, very good in: processes, quality, and brand trust, and all these things. No? But speed has to come more. And this is driven by digitalization now, or digital transformation. Then it will come automatically because customers are demanding this. Now, some years ago, it was, let's say, a surprise to understand that a customer in China, for example, wants to have karaoke in the car. Yeah? Explain this to a development person 5 years ago in the central headquarters somewhere was very hard to explain. Nowadays, I think everybody understood. And if you take a look at the cars, you could see at the IAA, for example, now, some days ago, this was quite a change compared with 2 years before. No? So very positive. I think there are a lot of learnings, but it's not at the end now.
And are there also learnings that perhaps need to be instilled in looking at newer materials? Because, Germany leading innovation, Germany being absolutely pitch perfect when it comes to technology, use of technology. But Germany, like the rest of the world, is also dealing with a supply chain restriction where lithium ion, the batteries which are going to power the next generation of mobility, the dependence on China continues to be high. What is it that automakers, auto manufacturers can learn, let's say, from an Indian technology, not exactly an Indian technology, but a company which is now experimenting with sodium-ion batteries, KPIT being the company I'm talking about. So is there need for innovators, is there need for technology enthusiasts to really look at diversified supply chains and diversified materials where dependence on a particular country is lower?
From my point of view, yes, there is a need, because if you want to be successful in the future, you need to have a kind of technological sovereignty. If you do not have this, if you're completely dependent on batteries, for example, I think it's a problem, because the add value of batteries is such a huge thing, 40%, I would say, more or less, yeah? And this is the most expensive component within the car, and you drive the performance of the car and quite a lot of important things. You talk about total cost of ownership at the end, and. So it is quite important to work on battery technology.
All right, so battery technology, finally, I think we are running out of time, but Jörg, this is a subject that you want to definitely talk about, and we'd love to hear your views. And this is about culture, the people, the human capital that goes into the shop floor, that goes into retail stores, and that goes into pretty much, everything that defines any industry, any sector, the people who are at the helm or at the real bottom of the pyramid, across the board, across the chain, how does the culture of innovation, the culture of being meaningful to your product and to your customer, how does that percolate down to the last employee in any organization? What's the best way to do it?
So I have gained experiences. I worked and lived in Brazil, in India, in China, and Europe. Yeah? And at the end, it's always the same because you deal with people, yeah? And people wants to be treated well. This is very important. You need to treat people well. You need to listen to people. You need to try to understand people. It's not enough to have an intercultural training of about 5 hours and then you're of the opinion you know everything. Yeah, this is not correct. No? So you need to take your time and try to understand the people. And if you are on this way and people realize this, I think then this is the best thing you can do.
Why is it not done?
Why not?
Everybody knows listening to people is the surest way to do it. Why do companies not listen to people? Why do companies not listen to employees? And how does one build that culture of companies actually seeing value in listening to the last employee?
I tell you, this is a very good question and a difficult question. Yeah, don't ask me. I don't know why. I just can give recommendation or think, how would I do this? Yeah, how would I do this?
How did you do it when you were heading, let's say, the India Volkswagen plant in your early years in India? What was your leadership style? What was your policy when it came to people in your organization?
I tried to understand the people. This is what is important for them. For example, what I have learned, what was not clear for me before, is that not only the person in the company, in the factory is important, also the family behind, for example, yeah, because they need to take care of them and so on, if they come from villages or whatever. So we need to find things, how to support the person and the family behind. No? So this is small learning, or how to interact. Yeah? So in Germany, we are sometimes quite direct. Yeah? We say what you say is wrong. Yeah? I never would do this in other countries. Yeah? I need to find different ways how to deal with this kind of things. And this is something you need to learn, yeah, over time. And if you are, again, in a safety space, you can talk to people face to face, then you get also information, and people consult you as well, know what is good and not.
Right. So I think it just reminds me this conversation of a book written by Mr. Vineet Nair, one of the co-founders and once the CEO of HCL Tech, which said, employee first, customer second. In one word, do you agree? Employee first, customer second, or does customer continue to be king?
No, I would not agree. I say customers and employees first. So if I do not treat the customer right, I can have the best employees.
So it's customer first, employee second? Or it's a draw?
No, I would say 1.0 customer, 1.1 employee.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jörg Müller for you on the Spotlight Dialogue. Thank you so much, Jörg. And may I now hand over the mic now to Dirk Ramhorst, former CIO of Evonik. I've been told he's the next speaker here. Dirk, all yours.
Thanks. Okay, just setting the scene. And let's arrange a table as well. Okay, so the last exercise before the lunch break, and therefore I'm very happy and privileged to welcome two guests with me here on stage. First of all, Inandi Iyer, welcome, please. And Axel Dennis, please join me. And you'll see already, after a lot of blue that was here on stage, we bring color on stage. And we talk about innovation. And so I think when I start introducing you, Anani, maybe we already reached lunchtime. So you are a founder, you're an entrepreneur yourself, you are awarded by what you do here, and you are, let's say, a kind of boundary spanner between India in Germany and Germany in Germany meanwhile. Welcome to have you and great to have you on stage.
Thank you so much.
Axel, on your end, you're heading innovation ecosystem meanwhile, but you have also an entrepreneurial background. So let's start to go into the topics. What are the let's say, leading topics in regards of innovation you're dealing these days with?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think when you talk today about innovation, I think the one word that comes to everybody's mind and which is most important is disruption. So wherever you see, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's industry, whether it's supply chain, we are really staring at disruption across, the topics. Innovation is a turbocharger. That's the one thing that's going to take you from the situation today to where you want to be. But at the same time, you're seeing this disruption also in innovation. When you started with innovation several decades ago, there was a certain model where the government put all its money into, say, military equipment or, those kind of systems to create the first levels of innovation. Then came national innovation systems where, multiple players came together. And then there was the triple helix model where government, industry, and research worked together. But today, there are no specific models that really showcase innovation. We are talking about co-creation, we are talking about startups, we are talking about accelerators, incubators. So really, you can see disruption even in the models of innovation. Mm-hmm. Then you look at the strength of countries in innovation. It's quite shattering to see that Germany has slipped from the top 10 countries in innovation, the latest Global Innovation Index, and gone down to 15. On the other hand, India has moved up several notches to go from 18 to 38. And China has entered into the Global Innovation Index for the first time on number 10. So there is a shuffling of countries, doing innovation. And thirdly, if you look at the topics also, the new economy topics, whether it's AI, whether it's EV, whether it's semiconductors, the traditional brick and mortar industry is moving towards knowledge-based economies. So there is disruption across the innovation spectrum. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what makes it more challenging. And the only way that we can deal with this effectively is if that players and stakeholders in the innovation system come together in such a way that you can create innovation in speed, scale, and value creation for every stakeholder involved.
Thank you. Axel, picking up the word of disruption, I think working in the Bosch ecosystem, of course, is not far away also from disruption in terms of traditional way of where Bosch was positioned. We just read about the layoffs of another couple of thousand people that Bosch announced, etc. What are your innovative topics you're dealing with these days?
Yes, you're correct. Transformation or even disruption is a normal part of life. And it's a normal part of societies and economies. And it's just happening on a more accelerated pace than ever. I think that's why also innovation cannot have the same innovation cycles like it used to have. Even if we talk hardware or deep tech innovation, you have to come up with ways to get quicker to results and to breakthroughs. So this is, of course, one major topic where both of our organizations are very well positioned in because we do a lot of research. I don't know if many know, but Bosch is one of the most research heaviest conglomerates in the world, the largest patent library in Europe, 10 patents a day. So there's so much in IP and research at corporations or institutions like Fraunhofer that gives me hope that we will be able to speed things up, because that's what we need. Mm-hmm. Of course, the old systems are evaporating between our hands, be it business models, be it technology, we see them, evolving overnight. So my job is actually one of the best, I think, that can exist. I have the opportunity to take all these assets that a big conglomerate like Bosch has and build spin-offs out of it. So my job is to create startups out of Bosch, and this is how I believe we can get that speed on the going.
Okay. I mean, we heard it in this previous talk regarding automotive industries, that speed is key in order to bring new models faster to the markets and adapt to changes faster. Both of you, are you, let's say, prepared for this pace that is maybe driven by the customer? I mean, we had this nice discussion about who's the key customer versus employee. So there was a slightly trend to the customer. The customer as a pacemaker, is this for basic innovation? Is this still there? Is this approaching you?
Well, we are in applied research, so we primarily deal with industry. And our core competence is taking research from the lab to the market, or what you call lab to fab. And there, of course, we are very much driven by customer requirements, by industry requirements. And today, speed and scale are the most important in any game that you're playing in the world. So yes, we are very aligned to that. And within the understanding that when you work with the Fraunhofer, we have 76 institutes in Germany. We are present in 80 countries in the world. And if you see, that kind of ecosystem really doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And while it's not so present in German minds that we have this fantastic ecosystem, I see that everywhere I go in India, people are really asking me, can we create a system like this in India, where you can accelerate research from lab to the market? So that is really a pain point of the industry in India today, despite the speed and scale that we have. And I think that's the huge value proposition that Germany brings to India.
Axel?
I agree. I think with all this in ecosystem thinking, which I'm a big believer in, you need to understand what can you bring to the table. What are you best at? It's the good old capability analysis that you should start with. So for example, Bosch is a physics company, a sensor company. So I'm not pretending I can do everything. I'm trying to look at these core strengths and then bring them into innovation where others bring what is missing. I compare it with a party. If you bring your best dish to the buffet and everybody does that, it will be a great party, right? But everybody tries to do everything right, it will potentially be messy. So this is the same for innovation, I believe. So, for example, when I look at one innovation, also the founder of this corporate startup is here from Germany and India. So it's a digital twin, okay? So digital twin is around for many decades. So what makes this digital twin unique? It's an AI model, like every digital twin, that has been developed in India by Bosch Software Solutions. And then it's a physical model that comes from the physics world of Bosch research in Germany. And this hybrid modeling, this is what makes this solution unique. So this is the kind of way I believe we're suited for this pace, by first concentrating on our strengths and then filling the gaps.
Now we learned, and this is a saying that is out for a while, software eats the world for breakfast, so to speak. You said Bosch is a physics company. Fraunhofer is also very much about, let's say, physics in a way. How do you deal with the topic of transforming into the software age?